Hi everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood author here. I'm so excited and a little scared because my Ancestry DNA kit will be here any day now. It is actually probably already in the mailbox. But before I go and get it, I just wanted to give you a little bit of backstory on who I am and why I decided to take this ancestry journey right now in my life. So first of all, you'll have to forgive my appearance today. I had not intended on recording this video today, but I was in my devotion time this morning and my spirit just kind of felt like today was the day. So even though my hair and makeup is not camera ready, my spirit kind of is, and that's what's more important. So we're gonna do it today. So I've had questions about who my father is and what his name is or what he's like. I've had questions probably my whole entire life about that. But for a lot of my life, I never had the courage to ask those questions. I was watching a message by Lisa Harper the other day, which changed my perspective on the situation. So if you don't know a lot about Lisa Harper, she talks a lot about the redemptiveness of God's love and how he redeems us and he buys us back from places of bondage. And she talks about how the Bible is a love story and that even though there's places in scripture, just like in our own life, that don't seem very loving and that don't seem very redemptive. But even in those places, it is love. It is God's love there. And so in this particular message that I was watching, and I don't remember the name of it, she was giving some examples of some scriptures that don't seem very loving when you first read them. But if you dig down into it, that God's love really is there even in those scriptures. So I'm going to give you one of them that's here in Deuteronomy 22 verse 28 and 29, I believe it is. If a man finds a woman who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. Because he has humbled her, he shall not be permitted to divorce her all of his days. So, on the surface, that verse says exactly what you think it says. That if a man rapes a woman, that he can give her father 50 shekels of silver, and then that woman is now his wife, and he's not permitted to divorce her for all of his days. Yes, that does say that. But as Lisa so delicately pointed out, that this was a very redemptive passage of scripture, because prior to that, a man could violate a woman, could rape her, a virgin, and there would be no consequence to him at all. That she would now be damaged property and would be unmarriable, and her family wouldn't get the dowries and the things like that, and she would be worth less. And so all the consequence was on her and none was on him. So this scripture this scripture redeemed her and gave her back value, and said that no, you can't just do that without providing for her for the rest of her life, without providing for her family, without doing this. There's consequences, in other words. So what this scripture has to do with me is that a lot of the reasons why I never asked the questions about who my father was, and I never pressed the issue, was out of respect for my mom. So I don't know a lot about my father or about the circumstances that surrounded my birth, but I do know my mom, and I know her character, and I know the person that she was, the person that she still is in heaven with Jesus. And I think I never asked questions because I never wanted to put her in that place of shame, that I never wanted her to have to go back to that place in her mind. I never wanted her to have to expose things, and that if she did lie, if for whatever reason she lied, I never wanted her to have to expose that. So after I listened to Lisa's message, and I prayed about it a lot, still praying about it now anyway, I kind of looked at it at a different perspective. I look at it now like the truth is vindicating, it's freeing. So it's not so much that I'm exposing a shame, but that I'm allowing the truth to vindicate her. Because one thing I do know is that whatever the truth is and whatever the secret is, whether it's, you know, a lie that she told or whether it was something that she just couldn't do, whatever the truth is, I know that she hid from it and that she literally ran from it from state to state for her whole life. And the truth sets us free. And even if it's in death, I want my mom to be free. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I do know, which isn't a whole lot. So I was born Anna Wolf. I was born in small town Ohio in the early 70s. I've always been told that I was born when my mom was 16 years old. I've never actually seen my mom's birth certificate. I have seen her marriage record though. And on her marriage record, it does say that she was married at 16 years old, which would line up to her being 16 when I was born, because I know that she got married when I was 6 months old, and that timeline does add up. However, on her marriage record, when it asks about her age, it says that she's about 17. So that kind of leads me to believe that there was a question of her age during those 6 months, between the time that I was born and the time that she got married. There was I think there was a little bit of a question about her age. The other reason I believe that is because when my mom passed away in 2009, she left her Bible at my house. Without going into detail, she left it in a place that was hidden, that I know I was intended to find it. Inside her Bible, there was a black and white picture of me and her, which I've seen that picture before throughout my life. There's only, I want to say, 2 pictures of me that exist under the age of, say, 3 or 4 years old, maybe even 5. There's only 2 pictures of me that exist, and this is one of them. So I had seen this picture before, but I had never seen the back of the picture, only the front. And so on the day that I found her Bible, and I found the picture inside of it, the other thing that is significant about my mom is that whenever she was praying about something or praying for somebody, she would keep pictures in her Bible of that person that was like a point of contact for her to be able to pray for them. So this also leads me to believe this picture being in there, so that this was something that she probably was praying about around the time that she passed away. But anyway, on the back of the picture, in my mom's own handwriting, which is very distinctive. My mom doesn't have handwriting like anybody else in this family. I recognize it very easily. So in my mom's own handwriting on the back of the picture, it says me 16, Anna 1.5. And so at first thought, I would think that, you know, maybe she just wrote that out later on, and that she just was uncertain about the ages, or, you know, maybe she was remembering or thinking back on it. And that would make sense, except for the fact that I'm her first child, her oldest child. And so if you ask me about my 2 children, if you ask me about my daughter, my youngest child, how old was I when she was born? Well, I would probably have to add up her age, my age, the date, this, that, you know, whatever. But if you ask me about my son, my oldest child, how old was I when he was born? I would answer that with no thought. I was 19 years old when my son was born. That's the day I became a mother. It's just a day that no woman will ever forget. If you ask, I've asked several women since then, how old were you when your first child was born? And every single one of them can answer me with zero thought process whatsoever. It's just not something that a woman forgets. So if my mom knew that she was 16 when I was born, she would never ever write on the back of a picture, me 16, Anna 1.5. I would never write on the back of a picture, me 19, Patrick 1.5, because I know that I'm 19 when he was born. It's just not a mistake that I would ever make, or that any other woman that I've asked would make. So that leads me to believe that if my mom was 16 when I was 1.5, then that would make her 14 when she gave birth, and as young as 13 when she got pregnant. So that leaves a lot of ambiguity to the fact that, you know, maybe there was more going on to the story than meets the eye. So I've only actually seen my father one time in my lifetime that I'm absolutely 100% positive that that was my father, because out of my mom's own mouth, she said those words. This would have been, this incident would have taken place in Youngstown, Ohio. I want to say I was about 15 years old at the time. We pulled into a gas station, and I was outside of the car pumping gas, and a man pulled up behind me, behind the car. My mom went inside to pay for the gas, and he pulled up behind the car, and he came up and he asked me a question. I don't remember the question. It was very trivial. How's the weather? How do I get to so-and-so place? I don't know that I ever even looked at him. It was so trivial. I just continued pumping the gas. He spoke to me briefly and walked over and started talking to my mom as she was coming out of the store. And I got back in the car. I still really wasn't paying attention to them until I heard my mom raise her voice. And then as I looked over, she was coming back and getting in the car. She slammed the door and drove off. And after when we drove off from the gas station, she just told me, that was your father. If you ever see him, don't you ever come near him. And that was the end of that story. And I tried to ask more about him, but she just, you know, seemed very angry, like she didn't want to talk about it. And I know we moved from Ohio very shortly after that. I want to say within a couple of weeks after that, we moved. So there's one other time that I think I might have saw my father. Not positive if it was him. It could have been somebody in his family, or it could be just a completely unrelated incident. But during this incident, my best recollection, as I've gone back over and pieced together how old people were and what time frame I think this was in my childhood, because this memory is very kind of unclear. But I think I was around 11 at this time. I think I was around 10 or 11 at the time when this happened. So we lived in Augusta, Georgia at the time. I don't remember the name of the street, but I do remember that Barfoot's convenience store, it's a little family-owned little penny candy store, was on that street. So whatever street that was, that's the street that my aunt lived on, and we were walking on that street. We had left my aunt's house, and we were walking up the street towards the convenience store. I think I was around 10, because I think I was lagging behind, and I know I had, my mom and my aunt had younger siblings and stuff in a stroller that were ahead of me. And so when we walked up the street, they were ahead and I was a little bit behind. And so there was a white pickup truck that was parked on the other side of the road. So we were walking on this side and they're parked on that side. He's parked on that side. And when I passed by the truck, I thought that I heard the person in the truck call me by my name. And so I didn't look. It just kind of was one of those things that just get you. But when we had walked past, I remember when we got up toward the corner by where Barfoot's was, my mom sent me back to the house to get something that she had forgot. I think it was pop bottles, to be honest with you, because I think we were going to Barfoot's to turn in our pop bottles. But when I went back past the truck, this time I'm by myself and nobody was with me. And so this time I heard him clearly when he called me by my name. But I still didn't look because I was scared now. So because now my mom and my family is way ahead. They're up at the corner and I'm here by myself. So I ran in the house, and I remember the truck was parked pretty close to the house. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I remember when he said it, I ran into the house, and I remember being scared when I was in the house. So I grabbed whatever it was, and I came back out. And when I was coming back out, when I went to go past the truck again, he called me by my name a third time, and this time I turned and I started walking over towards the truck. And when I started walking over there, that's when my mom started yelling at me and telling me to get up here. And so I just ran up towards her. She just started giving me a lecture about not talking to strangers. And do you know what could have happened to you? He could snatched you in the truck and, this would have happened. And, I'm pretty sure I got a spanking that day too. Because I know I didn't ask my mom about it again until way later. I think it was a couple days later when I finally got the courage to ask and to say that, he wasn't a stranger, Mom. He knew my name. And by that time, she just, when I felt like I kind of cornered the answer by saying he knew my name, and she did say that she knew who the person was, that she knew him from school. And that's all that she would say about that incident. One other incident that took place around that same time, and that's why I say I think I was around 11 at the time, because another incident that took place around that same time, this didn't necessarily have to do with me seeing anybody, but it was a significant event in my childhood, and I know that I was in the 5th grade when this event happened, and I think we were living around in the same area, so it makes me want to say that I was 11 when the first event happened, and maybe 12 when the second event happened, or 11, I don't know, but I know I would have been in the 5th grade. So however old you are in the 5th grade, that's how old I was when this second event happened. So I was in the 5th grade at Halton Elementary School, and my teacher was Miss Daniels, and so we were on the playground, and a little boy had called me the N-word, and so I knew that was a bad word, but I didn't know why it was bad. At that time, he might as well have called me boogerhead or something like that. So I knew he had called me something derogatory, but I didn't really know why it was bad. But my teacher, Miss Daniels, she knew why it was bad, and she was very offended for me. And so she ended our recess, cut everything short, and we went back upstairs to the classroom that day. She made him take out the dictionary and look up the definition of the word, and which means a low down person with dirty ways, by the way. And so she made him write that on the chalkboard all the way around the classroom. We had chalkboards all the way around the class, not dry erase, actual chalkboards with erasers. So he wrote that definition all day. When he filled up all the boards, he erased it and then started over. So for the next couple hours, I sat in my desk and I just watched him writing this definition all day long. And so that I was trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out what was the significance of him calling me that word, because up until that point, I thought that I was white. And I know that seems kind of crazy, but my mom was just always that casual about things, about color in our house. I never knew that I was any different from my sisters and brothers. In fact, my stepfather that my mom had married when I was 6 months old, for the majority of my life, I thought that was my father. Not really because she had told it to me, but just because I had always called him dad. He was my sister's dad, and I just never really thought anything about it until this day. But on that day, as I watched, this my classmate writing on the chalkboard, and I was thinking about the significance of the N-word and why he called it to me. That's when I first realized that I wasn't white, that I was part black. And why that was significant to me is because that meant to me that one of my parents wasn't my parent. And so I remember sitting on the front porch of the house that day, and that's why I say I think we were living in the same place, because I remember thinking that all of the people that I had come in contact with in my life, that one of them could have been my father and that I would have never have known it. But before I deduced to that fact, I think it took me like all day to even come to that, because before I deduced to that fact, I had to sit there and figure out which one of my parents wasn't my parent. And so I thought about everything that I could think that I knew was concrete in my life. And I finally was confident in myself that I knew that my mom was my mom and that it was my dad that wasn't my dad. And that's when I first began to realize that I was mixed race, and that I had never met my father, and that I didn't know his name. And that's when these questions started coming into my mind. And I think it was further solidified when that next event happened, when I seen the man in the white truck. But how my mom reacted to me seeing the man in the white truck, I think also kind of set into stone that this is something that we don't talk about. And so for my whole life, up until now, at 51 years of age, this is something that we just haven't talked about. And even after my mom passed in 2009, I started to ask some questions, and it just seems now that the people that did know the truth, and there's very few of them, have taken those secrets to their grave. And now I kind of want to know. And this is it's a little scary, so I'm hoping that you guys will follow along and that you'll stand with me. And if you have any information, contact me or upload your DNA to Ancestry DNA so that we can match.